Hey guys, my name's Brock, but people have been calling me Betty for a while. At first I didn't know how I would feel about swapping genders, but as it turned out, I learned a lesson that changed me forever. Before, you wouldn't even recognize me. I was annoyingly macho, had a full beard and crew cut. I drove a big truck with a loud engine. At work, I was always right, and I made sure everybody knew it. Life as a man was going pretty well for me. I wasn't rich, but I was getting there. I had good friends, a gorgeous girlfriend, Tamara, who was the best arm candy this side of the Nile. My boss, Craig, he and I were thick as thieves. He hired me at the ad firm as a senior designer, and I even had my own secretary. Well, administrative assistant, as they're calling it these days. But whatever you want to call it, I got a chance to work with this really gorgeous lady named Sylvia. And Sylvia was pretty easy on the eyes, if I do say so myself. Maybe I was flirting, but it was harmless, and she got mad at everything. One day, she got upset with me calling her lady. Craig called me into his office, told me to shut the door, and said he had to wear his boss hat for a second. Apparently, Sylvia and some of the other ladies around the office were complaining about my behavior. The nicest way to put it? They said I was being old-fashioned. And Sylvia accused me of hitting on her. But it was a misunderstanding, and she had a list of things I'd said or done. And Craig told me that I had created an HR nightmare. Then he asked me to take a temporary leave of absence. I was being treated like dirt. And to make things worse, I got Zip for support at home. When I told Tamara about it, she got mad at me. She said I was always flirting with girls. She even reminded me of this anniversary dinner we had. She said I was hitting on the waitress the whole time, but I didn't remember it that way. Boy, you just can't win, huh? And I started to grow bitter, you know? I remember thinking of how easy some women had it, and I wished out loud that I was a woman. It was that very night it all started. It was some new app called Gin Flip, and the ads for it kept popping up on my phone. What would you look like as a girl? I ignored it, worrying about everything back at the office. Craig said to think of it as a vacation while things cooled off. I didn't know what to do with myself, and I got lost in video games and TV for a couple of weeks. Meanwhile, that ad for the gender flipping game kept popping up. I had time to kill, and I thought, why not try it out? It might be funny. I had wondered before how I might look as a woman, so I downloaded it on my phone, and I had to click through a number of those disclaimers that gave the app permission to use the camera on my phone. And when I got to the app itself, it seemed simple enough. I took a selfie, and then it rendered me into a woman. Dang, I was looking pretty good. I couldn't believe how gorgeous I was. Looking back, that's when I got hooked. I found myself staring at my own picture, and once, Tamara caught me looking at myself too. She got all mad at me for looking up girls online, until I explained it was an app that turned you into the other gender. I told her I was only curious, and she gave me that look that told me I should be careful. Well, she must have known something I didn't, because later that evening, my body underwent a transformation. It started with a fever, and then my body began to ache. And then I was growing in places that embarrassed me. I think you know what I mean. I thought it was a crazy dream at first, but I couldn't wake up. And then I started to think, oh man, this isn't a dream. My body was changing. I noticed my hair was growing at a strangely rapid pace. My body was gaining curves, and the stubble was disappearing from my face. My skin felt so soft, and I was looking good. I was turning into the picture on the app. I called up Tamara, but she didn't believe me until she saw it for herself. I had no idea what was going on with my body. I must have sounded scared, because Tamara was trying to calm me down. I was rambling about the phone app and how it must have cursed me. She got me to rest, and she looked into the phone. And when I woke up, I thought the nightmare was over. But it wasn't, and I felt depressed. I looked good, but I didn't look like me. I looked like someone else. Tamara finally dragged me out of the house, and she let me borrow her clothes since mine didn't fit me anymore. At lunch, all these guys were staring at me. It was creeping me out. I remember before thinking that women ought to take ogling as a compliment, but it didn't feel like a compliment now, and it made me hide away from the public. I had to figure something out, but Tamara said she couldn't find anything on the app. It was like it didn't exist, and she was right. When I checked my phone, the app had disappeared from my phone without a trace. There was no history of the download. I got so mad that I just cut my hair, but it grew back right away. I couldn't get rid of the female version of myself. He was saying that all was clear and I could come back to work. There was one catch, he told me. I had to make a public apology. I asked him for more time, and he seemed irritated. He reminded me what a big favor he was doing for me, but it didn't sound like a favor. I had to humiliate myself and apologize in front of the whole office. And meanwhile, I had to deal with the fact that I was stuck in a woman's body, all because of some cursed app. Wallowing in self-pity, I wondered, why me? I even got so desperate that I looked up my problem on the internet. I learned that there were many people who struggled with being in the wrong body. And maybe I wasn't alone. Craig was rushing me to get back to work. He told me he couldn't hold my position forever. And if I didn't come back and apologize, he'd have to fill my position. Just then, I had an idea. If I didn't come back, he'd have to hire somebody new. And who better for my job than me? Finally, an unrecognizable body would come in handy. I let myself get fired, and then I changed my name on my resume to Betty. Well, Betty got herself an interview. Tamara helped me with my outfit and made sure I didn't screw up my makeup. Nobody knew Craig or the job better, and I knew just what to say. But about halfway through the interview, Craig started flirting with me. He kept calling me sugar, and I was making some really good points about advertising. But his eyes would wander down my body. He wasn't even listening, and he barely looked at the portfolio I put together. But I did my best to remain calm and professional. It's not like the interview was bad. It was just different. The good news was I got offered the job, but the bad news was I got offered less pay, significantly less. But what else could I do? I had a pretty full savings account, but I couldn't live on it forever. So I took the job. Soon, it became clear that Craig was falling in love with me. He was looking at me like never before, and he even started buying me small gifts. It was nice, but it made me uncomfortable. I felt so conflicted because his behavior reminded myself of me, before my body changed. The worst part was how I felt like I couldn't say anything because he was my boss. And most of my coworkers just said I should keep my head down and be glad that he likes me. Sometimes he'd lurk a little close, and I'd have to make up excuses to leave all the time. The only person who really took me seriously was Sylvia. She was kind and understanding, and when she saw that Craig was being weird with me, she told me I didn't have to put up with it. It was so great to have somebody to relate to that I just blurted out, "I wish I was a guy." Just then, I heard a ding, and when I checked my phone, I saw a notification. That app was back, and it wanted me to confirm an update. When I did, it offered me a free trial of an app called Man Maker, and it asked if I wanted to see myself as a guy. I guess wishes do come true, and I realized then that's what all this was about. Learning what it was like on the other side. Listening to Sylvia made me see myself and my actions in a whole new light, and I realized what a creep I'd been before. It looks like someone or something was listening to my wishes. But if I went back to being a guy again, I knew I would be a different guy. There's this saying out there, you shouldn't judge other people unless you walk a mile in their shoes. I had no idea what it was like being a woman, and after living that experience, I realized what a jerk I'd been in the past. And now that I know better, I can do better. So after I transitioned back from being a woman, I apologized to Tamara for treating her like arm candy, and I apologized to Sylvia for not treating her with the dignity she deserved. I revealed that I was Betty all along, and that being a woman taught me a lot. "Well, I hope a little bit of Betty stays inside you now," she told me. I did too, to be honest. And I think she is in there, my feminine side. I invested my savings into starting my own ad company, and I hired Sylvia as my partner. She was thrilled and accepted my offer upon the condition that we always respect each other. It was an easy deal to make. But if I'm honest, I would have never gotten there if I had never lived as a woman. Have you ever walked a mile in another's shoes? Tell us about it in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more hidden wisdom stories. Remember, when you share our stories, you're sharing wisdom.